All right, we're back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be starting here momentarily. Sorry for the delay in starting here. Just had a few things I was taking care of, but we'll be starting here momentarily. We're going to jump right in because we got a lot to cover today in this very special broadcast. And of course, like I said, we're going to give people the courtesy, give people time to get in because, I did set this to go. We were going to start at 6:15 and 8:15 you guys time if you're on the East Coast. And I told you there was just a couple of things I was just trying to take care of. But anyway, let's give it about a minute and then we'll get started. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. And then, like I told you today, we're just going to have to jump right in today. All right. All right, about another 20 seconds. All right. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to the broadcast. I hope all you guys are doing well. And we're doing good here on this end. And today is March the 13th. I think the last time I was live, it was March the 2nd. So this wasn't, I didn't get a strike or anything like that on YouTube, but I was dealing with something. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening. And I tell you, it's so something, if you will. My wife and I, we're going to actually do a separate video on that. And, because it was just really something. So especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're definitely going to want to tune into the first part of this broadcast this evening because we're going to talk about some of the challenges that as entrepreneurs in today's world that we deal with. And and it's the same old stuff, but we're going to talk about it. And I'm sure if you listen, it will definitely be something that would help many of you. And so we're going to talk about that first. And then in the second half, we're going to talk about something that if you've been following this platform, I've been saying this for a very long time, that what we call the Black community isn't the Black community. It's not. It just isn't. It's not the Black community that we know of. Okay. It's something else. And we're going to talk about it. And again, I'm just going to talk about it on the only way I know how to talk about it. Okay. So that's what we're going to get into. And that's going to be a lot in that one. Okay. And a lot in that portion too. So make sure you stick around. This one might be, like I said, again, I'm just putting everything in because we're catching up. Okay. We haven't seen each other for a minute. And so, so if you're one that's like, okay, just get to the point and shut up. Well, this ain't going to be the broadcast for you because I am going to be sharing quite a bit on this one. Okay. So just letting you know. And if this is your nighty night time and you're like, I got to doze off, I'll catch the rest of it later on. Hey, that's all right. The video will still be here. And that's it. Okay. All right, so let me first. I got to do something to this light here. I forgot. Give me a moment here, y'all. Give me a micro moment here. All right, here we go. Y'all laughing at my coat of many colors chair. Anyway, okay, so let's get into it. So, usually during this time of the broadcast, this is where I am talking about, before we get into, talking about the news or talking about, whatever, we talk about Sombatry. We talk about the things that, what's on sale, the latest things that we're doing and all that kind of stuff. Sombatry is a business that my wife and we started right, I would say during COVID, right when COVID started ramping up, actually, right when it started ramping up. So you're talking 2019, 2020, around that time. And we did it because we already saw what was happening. And we already knew the games that this system was going to play by pushing as many people as possible to get that, what. And we saw what was happening. And so we said, no, we have to find an alternative. We have to find a natural solution to all of this because we know there is. And even during that time, we didn't even know as much as we know now. Like every day we're learning. Every day you're learning. And so, but we just knew in our hearts that what they were, the narrative that they were feeding us was not true. There are other alternatives out there, and there's some basic things we need to understand about our bodies, the human body, how it works, all of that stuff. So that's what we started off. We were in the Hebrew Israelite space. So at that time, Sombatry wasn't called Sombatry. It was called, what was it called? Brew Gardens. There you go. It was called Brew Gardens. It's been that kind of 2 weeks, y'all. It was called Brew Gardens. And so, but yeah, we had people coming in and we were selling all kinds of herbs and things like that and all of that, and then over time, as you know, if you follow this platform, we've changed kind of our, things, our belief system and things that we, as far as the whole Hebrew thing is concerned and all of that. So we wanted our business to reflect that. So we just said Sombatry, we just decided to call it that. And so, but regardless, we still have numbers of people who are Hebrew Israelites that still purchase and buy and all of, and we still serve and all of that. And it's perfectly fine. Nobody's ramming anything down their throats or anything like that, saying, no, you got to do that. Now, we tell the truth on this platform and we would challenge people in that space. But at the end of the day, you believe what you want. And that's what we tell people all the time. I don't care who you are. We just want to see people get, just the education and the help so that I just want to see people healthy. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired. I was just getting very tired of seeing loved ones, regardless of what their belief system is. I just grew tired of seeing early deaths, particularly amongst Black folks. So that's how I feel right now. There's nothing different has changed about that at all. And so one of my motivators was the fact that as I began to start learning more and more, fortunately, I haven't had either one of these, diabetes or high blood pressure. Well, there was some I went to this one doctor and he was saying that I'm on the road to having high blood pressure, but that's never really manifested or whatever. But anyway, but I've never really dealt with these things like many other of our people have. And so, but once I started learning more and more about it, I said, this thing is impacting a lot of people, but it's too many people. But what I'm learning, it's something that if we just do just some simple tweaks, a lot of this could be eradicated, and, I know that there's some exceptions out there of people where it may be a little bit more than a few tweaks. Okay, we get that. We understand that. But for a majority of these cases, we knew that, man, this stuff could be eradicated. And so I What the heck was that on my face? Oh, I had a sandwich. Dog, y'all, I'm coming up here looking like, that wasn't no booger, y'all. What was that on my face? Oh my God. I'm sorry, y'all. Anyway, I had to throw that sandwich down before I came on here. Anyway, so once I began to learn, and so I was, this radical idea just came in my mind, and it's always stuck with me. And it was this: I said, I believe my goal, one of my goals in life, is to eliminate these two conditions to where it's almost non-existent. I'm not a doctor. I never been to a doctor, a medical school or anything like that, nor do I pretend to be one, nor do I pretend to know more than doctors. I'm just an individual that loves to read, loves to ask questions, and love to research, and love to learn about nature and how nature works and all of that stuff. And I just encourage other people to do the same thing. And so the little that I have learned, I've learned that there are things that we can do where we can eradicate a lot of these things that we have dealt with. In many cases, it's been a generational thing that has gone on for, over and over again, right? And so I said, enough of this. I'm tired of losing loved ones. I'm tired of, particularly our ones that are older. I believe that we can have many, many more of our elders, our Black elders, living 100 plus. You know what I mean? I believe we could do that, and they're healthy. You know what I mean? I believe that. I strongly believe that. It would make me so, I'm one of these people, y'all. I'm very, I guess, in some ways it's kind of peculiar. I guess, I don't know. It's just, the more you start learning stuff, it's just, I don't know. And that's this, I've never gotten used to going to somebody's house and you open up the cabinet and it's full of all these medications. That is something that I've never allowed myself to make that normal. Because I would look at that and I realized, I said, they are running a game on these people. And they're going to continue to run this game until they die. And I would look at that and I never got comfortable with that. That never was like, oh, to see this. No, I've never got comfortable with that. There's someone I know right now who the doctor basically told them that they have skin cancer or a form of it. And it's a Black person. And the doctor basically told them that they have to have chemo to eradicate it. And again, you remember I told you, Black folks, the key to us, one of the things, Black people do you see cancer in Black people? Yes. Skin cancer, not as much, as very rare because, again, the melanin and all of that stuff. But I'm not saying we're immune to cancer. I'm just saying skin cancer is something that is very rare amongst Black folks. It's very rare. But here you have this person who's living in a state that's known for a lot of sun, and the doctor not once recommended this individual with chocolate skin to get sunlight. Because I know this individual that I'm talking about for years, I'm very confident that they were putting on sunblock. And we've told you about that, and as many other people have talked about that as well, the dangers of it and what it does to your skin. But yet this doctor immediately told this person, you need to get, go through chemo. And the last I heard, it ain't really doing too much for this individual. So I would hear stuff like that, and it would make me very angry because I knew these people, this system, has already made it clear that it doesn't give, two damns about Black people anyway, or anybody for that matter. So this has become something of a life mission for me when it comes to wanting to see people live a better life. You know what I mean? And my wife, likewise, is pretty much the same. And so anyway, so that's what you get, at Sombatry, what we put together. So it's not just, oh, we just got some herbs and we got some juices and we got this or that or whatever. No, these are things that we really take the time and we put in everything we have so that we can make sure that we're, we got the education piece, but we're also providing things, and we're not, in the way we even price things, we make sure we're pricing it in such a way where, most people will be able to purchase it. You understand what I'm saying? And because, that's just what you do, if you're trying to reach as many people as possible. There's even been a couple of times where we've just given stuff away. You know what I mean? Because that's just the type of people we are. Well, anyway, so I did I know I haven't been on here doing lives in a while, but I'm gonna get to that and tell you why. But if you haven't been watching the shorts that I've been creating, because when you're going through stuff, one thing I've learned from my from our ancestors is that when you're really going through stuff, you find ways where you can express it in a way where, you're not being destructive, right? And so, so out of our pain as a people, one of the things came blues music, jazz music, other kinds of music, gospel music, or stories. And so for me, being that we're in an age right now where we can now create animations and all that kind of stuff, for me, it was animations. And so what I'm doing is putting together a story that's blended kind of what we're going through. And basically it's telling the story of how we, that online businesses are nothing more than digital. You're nothing more than a digital sharecropper. So I was going to play some clips on there, but I just go back and watch some of those animations on your own. They're very short, y'all. It's very short, and it ain't going to take up too much of your time. And they're under 3 minutes. So make sure you check that out. But now let me go back here for a moment. So anyway, you have different platforms that, their thing is, hey, we're here to help small businesses. You want to start a business online? Here we are, and it's a platform here. We have everything built in here to help you and your business to grow, and you could take care of your customers. You could do this. We're going to give you these tools. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that, all that kind of stuff, right? So, we did what everybody else did. We, picked a platform and, and just did our thing, and that's it. And we're selling stuff. Everything's fine. And one of the things we started noticing, and this is even in the earlier days, is every now and then, you see, you got the thing, in this case, you have Shopify, and then you have the payment processor. Okay. So Shopify has its own payment processor. Okay. They have their own thing. In other platforms, it operates similarly. Okay. So anyway, so the platforms that we were on, they would have, you have your platform where you put your website on with all your products and your goods on there. And then you have your payment processor, right? Well, if you are selling the kind of stuff that we're selling, anything herbal at all, anything natural, herbal, you're not recommending people to go to the doctors and all that stuff, these payment processors will put you under heavy scrutiny. And what do I mean by that? They are watching every transaction you make. And so if they even notice that, okay, this is what you're bringing in every week, and then let's say the next week, you're like, oh my goodness, the sales are going up. We're doing even better. If they even notice something like that, then the payment processors can automatically halt your payment. And they won't even have to tell you why. They'll just say, we just noticed there's some changes going on with your payment, with your income here. We're going to hold your money for a few days, and we're going to see, what exactly is going on here. Okay. And so that was in the earlier days, we did face that, but it wasn't too bad. Every now and then it would happen. That's it. Now remember now, one thing, any entrepreneur, anybody that's in business, they'll tell you that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. Okay. The first 5 years, most businesses fail, and it's for a myriad of reasons, right? So you would think that platforms like Shopify or some of these other ones that are out here, they wouldn't do stuff like that if they know that you're just starting out. You know what I mean? That this business is just starting out. Let's not play those games. No, they don't do that at all. In fact, they do this stuff all the time. And in a minute or two, in a few moments, I'm going to actually show you some other videos of other people who've had it a lot worse than we had. Okay, so anyway, and like I said, I'm going to, not tonight, but later on, my wife and I, we're going to sit down and we're just going to share even more, okay? But anyway, long story short, this recent thing, what happened was, and this started last year, what happened was Shopify basically, again, out of the blue, they said, we're going to halt your payments, all your payments, whatever sales you make, we're holding them. Shopify decided to hold our payments for a month. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. For a month. They decided to hold our payments for a month. And no matter how many times we reached out to them and said, okay, what else do you need? What needs to happen? Because this is crippling us. They would not give us a straight answer. And so what that meant was sales that came in, well, you got to fulfill them, right? So we had to find some kind of way. We had to find money from somewhere. So we ended up, of course, using our own personal money, borrowing, whatever we had to do to make sure that we were doing the best we could to get orders out. But at the end of the day, they're still holding our money. Well, after a month later, they finally figured it out or whatever it was. And so now we're to the next month. Well, they didn't just say, okay, we're flipping the switch back on. No, what they did was we're just going to drop it in little buckets and eventually give it back to you. Okay? So they didn't give it all at once. It was just in little buckets. But in the meantime, you have all of these customers that you still have to take care of. Well, by this time, they're writing in and saying, where's my order? Where's this, that, or whatever? Well, now you're creating delays, right? So you got to figure that out. And so you're trucking along, you're trying to catch up. And then later on, what happens again? Well, they do it again. And then, so we're talking between like, what was that, May? And towards the end of the year, Shopify did this to us several times. And what was happening was, just as we were getting to the point where we were like, okay, we're getting everything cleared out, we're taking care of all these customers, they would do a rug pull again. For whatever random reason they wanted to do it, they would do it. So now what you were dealing just with one snowball, now you're dealing with several snowballs. You know, it starts off small and now it creates this whole other situation where now it's like, okay, how are we going to take care of these orders? Now, again, we were fine as a business. We were sound. Everything was fine until they started doing this. And so this last time what happened was, and this happened a couple of weeks ago. This was in the first week of this month. I'm getting up, doing things. And man, when I tell you, we were so happy and excited because I had finally locked in and I was getting our SEO down. I mean, I tell you, I was literally be up all night. Now, on our site now, if you go there, we just started offering coffee. We started offering supplements and things like that. All of those products, we had to design the labels for all of them. All of them. So it wasn't just like, we just do. No, all of them. One by one, I had to sit here together with Nicole and we had to design the labels for all of them. So you're talking a couple of nights where we were up literally all night long, from sun up, from sundown, and then while everybody's sleeping, we still working to get these labels done. And we finally got it up because we like, man, we finally got something. I feel like we're on the come up now. And all of the metrics of our website was all going up. Like everything was going up. Everything was like finally clicking. We were finally getting, and then we were getting things out, all that stuff. And we were almost there come March, the first week of March. All of a sudden, we get a notice from Shopify and saying, we're cutting everything off and you're not going to be able to do any kind of payments with us again. Okay. That's what they told us. And so they said, if you want to challenge it, you can, but that's pretty much what we're going to tell you. That's what's going on. And so we did. We challenged it. We was like, okay, well, what's going on and all of this stuff, you chat GPT and all that stuff, because they're not telling you anything. And, maybe when Nicole and I, when we do we'll even show you the letter itself. It says, we've decided that, no, we're not going to continue to allow you to process payments. And no, we're not going to tell you why. They literally said that. They literally said that in the letter. And like I said, again, maybe we'll show it to you. So the only thing we've been able to kind of figure out is it had something to do with us adding those supplements. That's the only thing we could think about. And so what we found out later on is Shopify, even though they will allow you to platform with supplements, they put you immediately in another category where you automatically are just flagged all over the place. They will flag you. And one little thing you do, it's super duper magnified, and all of a sudden you're toxic. So that's what happened. And so, well, now that put us in a very interesting position. And for me, and I'm just speaking for me, and like I said, again, I want, Nicole, she's going to speak on her behalf. But at that point, because we had been through this so many times, where we have did so much and playing by the rules, doing all of this stuff, and literally feel, and then it's not just we feel, you're looking at them, literally rug pulling you every time you get almost to a point where you're almost there, and then they just rug pull you. These last couple of weeks, I went through the whole time where I was just saying, I'm done. We're not doing, I don't know if I want to do Sombatry. I said, if this is what's required, if this is what we have to go through, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. And it was very bad. I'm talking about mentally, everything. It was very bad because it was, when you work so hard like that, and for people just to do stuff like that and not even give you an explanation, it's just really made me beyond angry. It made me very, very angry, to say the least. And so during that time, there were a couple of days I just said, man, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just not. I mean, what's the point? And so I was looking at, I said, well, let me catch up on some of these shows here. So it was a few years ago, someone that recommended I watch Lovecraft County. And I was like, I ain't watching that. I ain't watching no demons and all that stuff, right? And they said, listen, Dwayne, no, you need to watch it because it's got a lot of history stuff in there and all that. And I was like, I ain't watching that with them, right? And then, but I was like, man, let me just watch this thing. So I watched that, the whole series. I couldn't stop watching it. It's only one season I watched it. And then I was just like, wow, because I love very good writing. Very good writing. I will watch it. I'm watching something right now. I'm like, man, the writing on this thing is so good, So I saw that. And then I also watched the Watchmen, the new one, the new well, it's not new now, but the Watchmen series. And I think that's one season too, right? I just watched that, and again, very good writing. I was, I was a little like, I don't know where this going, but I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Now, you may say, okay, why are you mentioning that? Just follow me. Both of these shows, they centered on Black Wall Street, on Greenwood, Oklahoma. Both of them centered on that, which I thought was very interesting. And you know, and I've said many times here, I said, you know, there's nothing that's a coincidence. Everything we do, everything we encounter, everything, there's a reason why we encounter it. There's a reason for it. Think about all the little micro events that took place today in your life. Don't discount not one of those things. Not one. There's a purpose and a meaning as to why you had those little encounters, the little ones, the big ones, whatever, the medium-sized ones. There's a reason for all of that. And so in this case, this Greenwood, Oklahoma, you know, it came up. It kept coming up. I mean, I know the story. Y'all know the story. We know, you know, but it made me think even deeper about it. I said, you know, this is really a very deep story when you start thinking about it. I said, here you got these black folks, because remember, Greenwood, which was a section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a black section of town, but it wasn't all black people. If you look up, you know, Greenwood, you know, it wasn't, you had whites that lived there too, some natives that lived there too, and all of that. So it wasn't all black, you know, but a lot of black folks were concentrated in that part of town, you know, but it was known for the businesses and all of that stuff. They were self-sufficient. But again, as I've said on this platform many times, we've gone through, it wasn't just Greenwood. You had towns all throughout the West, and not just in the West. You also up in the Northeast. We've actually toured you. It was one in New Jersey that I toured you through. That's still standing to this day. Now that was more of a community. It was just basically houses, but it wasn't just in the West, but, you know, in other places too, where you had black-owned businesses, you had black schools, you had, of course, the housing and all of that stuff. Black folks just pretty much were running everything, self-sufficient. But I'm focusing on the West because out here, it was kind of like you didn't have a lot of infrastructure out here like you had it back in the East. You understand what I'm saying? You come out here in the desert, ain't nothing. Okay, you ain't got no protection. It's just you and your dreams. You know what I mean? And hopefully you can find some water out here. And so the black people that came out here to the West, they had to build something literally out of nothing. And there was no protection for them. There was no federal protection. There was no federal programs. There was none of that. They just had to do everything themselves. And so they did it. You know, some failed. Some of these towns and cities, they failed, but some actually did quite well, and some are still standing to this day. But what did that represent? What it represented historically, not just for black people, but just for Americans, period. It represented an independent spirit where, given the right group of people, given the right circumstances, you can do pretty much anything you put your head to and your hands to. That's what we would call the American story. And these black individuals proved that. And so, but that also represented a threat to the powers that shouldn't be. Because you can't, as much as they will tell you they want you to be independent and that, hey, wherever you want, that's your plot of land, you want to go and get your plot of land and build yourself, that's what it should be. That's what America is about. As much as they say that kind of stuff, don't pay your taxes and find out don't pay your property taxes and see what happens. You can own the land all you want, but you don't pay your property taxes, they will snatch your stuff. They will snatch it. So at the end of the day, you really don't own too much of anything. I mean, quite honestly. So they didn't have that back then. So when we look at Greenwood, so we're still in Greenwood here. That was all theirs. the land, all of that, that was theirs. When I think about even my own grandfather on my mother's side, the house that my mother, she grew up in, that was hand built by both my grandfather and his brother. They built that in South Carolina. They built that themselves. And they also built, I think, the next door home. They built that themselves. They went and got the wood. They went and got the nails. They went and got the building materials. And they built that themselves. And the land, that was theirs. And out west, it was the same thing. Same thing. And so anyway, so it was something that they will own. In one of the animations I did, I mentioned that in there. In 1910, they said Black Americans owned 16 million acres of land. 16 million acres of land. And today they said it's less than 3 million. So you went from 16 million acres of land that black people own to less than 3 million. That's where we are today. And so on that land, all of those millions of acres, we were growing our own crops. We had our own schools. We had our own houses. We had our own, when it comes, whatever it is that we needed, we had our own space to build and to grow and to be great. But what happened? They didn't like that. So you saw situations like in Greenwood where they said, we're done with this. We don't want to see this happen. So they destroyed it. So fast forward to today, what did they do? So they said, okay, so we're going to do something else. We're going to give the illusion that you have all of this space, that you can build whatever it is you want. Here it is. But we're going to digitize it. And that's exactly what they did. So platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce, whoever you name, these are the new land. This is the new land that they issue out to anybody. You want to build land? You want to build something? Okay, cool. Go ahead and build. But we own the land and you are the sharecropper. Now, if you've ever did any reading about sharecroppers, some of you may even have sharecroppers in your own family. Listen to them, listen to their stories. There's stories right here on YouTube of sharecroppers. They will tell you, you work all day. These sharecroppers, in short, made an agreement with the landowners and said, hey, listen, we will grow the crops. We'll take care of them. We'll do all of that. And we'll also live on the land. And, we'll agree to a price on what we get paid and all that stuff. And usually it wasn't really, they paid them the least amount, but they were getting paid. But the landowners, after a while, they started getting a little funny with the money and started saying, hey, you know what? I know we said 25 cents a bushel. We're going to give you 10 cents. And I know I said I was going to supply you with the water, but you're going to have to figure that out because I'm not going to get that water for you anymore. I mean, these are the kind of stories that these sharecroppers dealt with. And like I said, for historical accuracy, let's be clear. It wasn't just black sharecroppers in this country. You had white people who were sharecroppers too. And they would take advantage of them as well. So what I'm saying is that the power structure in this country, at the end of the day, that's how they do it. So what they did today is they took that sharecropping model and now they made it digital. So you, me, anybody else, we can create whatever it is we want on their digital space, but you best believe they're ultimately in control. And at any given moment, they can change the rules for you. Any given moment, they can do it because they can. That's really what it comes down to, because they can. And so that's what we experience, is that all of a sudden they just decided that, yeah, we're just going to do this. But like I said earlier, don't just take my word for it. Let me get on the screen here just a couple of stories that I was able to pull up of other people who are actually going through the same exact thing. All right, I'll tell you some, but when Nicole and I do our video, I will actually have more of these videos here. some of these, I want to play them for you. I tell you what, I won't play these because the way I'm feeling right now, I just don't feel like dealing with the, because some of these may have the music on there and all that, but I'll just tell you, okay? Just trust me when I say, if you want to look it up yourself, I would encourage you, go on TikTok and do a search for Shopify is holding my money. I want you to do that. Just do a search on TikTok for Shopify is holding my money. And trust me, you will come up with the stories. The stories I have here, you got one person, Shopify was holding $100,000 of their money. Another person, it was a black woman, $70,000 of their money. I have another story here where it was a woman who, and I sent this to Nicole earlier, she had to sell her car so that she could pay, so she could get the money to take care of orders because Shopify was holding her money. Then I have another one here. Let me see if I can see it here. It's not as much. This one is like over $2,000 or so of money, of their sales money, Shopify was holding. And there's a few more in here too. But like I said, again, I was going to play some of these, but I just don't feel like, I'm just a little irritated. You know what I'm saying? And I don't feel like having to deal with, YouTube saying, there was some music in the background and all of that. But like I said, again, I would just encourage you to go and just go on TikTok at least, and you can look it up and you'll find the stories yourself of individuals where Shopify is holding tens of thousands of dollars of various business owners simply because they can. So that brings us back to our mission again, is like I said, so for businesses like ours, where we do sell the stuff that we sell when it comes to herbs and things like that, it's not just Shopify. There are many other processors that you have to, that have different temperances when it comes to that. So, so what we had to do was this, because, Shopify right now, being, just full disclosure right now, they're like, okay, you got to pay your monthly payment. I said, what cheek do you want to kiss? Because you ain't getting nothing else from us. So I literally, for the past week, had to completely from the ground up rebuild our entire website on a whole different platform. I mean, from the ground up, everything. And that's what I've been focused on and doing. And not only that, we had to find other payment processors that we can work with for now, and not just have one, but we have several of them lined up. So one starts acting up, we can pivot and go to another one, so forth and so on. And we're still looking up other ones as well, so that we could be in a much better position and making sure that this is something that it's not come up again as something as a regular thing as what Shopify was doing. So what we're doing right now we're in the middle of contacting, fortunately it's not impacting all of our customers, but it's quite a few of them. We're actually emailing our customers who are impacting and letting them know that, hey, listen, here's some ways that you can get your money back, because we never got your money. That's the problem. So, but here's some ways that you can get your money back, and we'll be more than happy to assist in any way possible, because we want to see you get your money back. Now, if you choose not to shop with us again, and I've never experienced this with Amazon, are you that kind of person? Okay, fine. But you can't accuse us of impeding you in any way, because we're doing everything we can to do our part of it. I think the thing that really pissed me off was about all of this is because I know how hard we work to keep, when it comes to our integrity, when it comes to our character, when it comes to things like that, we put everything into that. My wife, me, my family, we put everything into that. And when you have somebody who you have partnered with that will basically take that and just throw it in the trash and just try to leave you out hanging and like, well, don't look at us, that kind of thing, it's just really, I don't think anger is even the right word I can even bring up right now. I really don't. I don't even think that's. I don't even know if I can bring that up. So anyway, so yeah, so we're in a, so like I said, we've switched over. The site right now it's still up and it's going to continue to stay up. But like I said, we'll be switching over to this other platform. The site's going to look a little bit different. I would argue even looks even better now. The payment processing and all of that, we've already got a solution for that for now. So if you go to Sombatry right now, the way we're doing it is when you put stuff in your cart, and then you click pay or whatever, what's going to happen is it's going to send an invoice. You're going to get an invoice from us, and then we're going to invoice you, and you can pay that way. And people have been doing that, and everything's fine. We're moving along just like we were before all of this stuff started happening. And so we're in a much better position right now. But try explaining in that to many, many customers, everything I just explained. Some people, they will automatically click in and get it, and others, well, I've never had to deal with this with Amazon. I saw one email from someone said, see, this sound like a scam or something. I said, well, yeah. I said, if this is a scam, we wouldn't be sitting here instructing you how you can get your money back. I mean, so, it's, some people, it's a little curveball-ish or whatever, but the reality is that this is the reality that we're in right now. And a lot of these platforms are doing this and have been doing this for a very long time. And like I said, again, if you are someone like us who's invested into the health and wellness of just people, period, well, there's a huge target that's on your back right now. And yes, they will absolutely mess around with your money. They will absolutely do it at any given time. They will not give you a warning. They won't give you heads up. They won't give you anything at all. They will just screw around with it, and that's it. And what's tied to that? People you have to pay. It's, things you got to take care of, and, your personal stuff. Everything's tied to that. And all of a sudden they just decide we just going to pull the plug, and we don't give a damn about any of it, or you for that matter. So yeah, so this is digital sharecropping that we're in. And so, like I said, if you have a business and it's online based, my advice to you, depending on especially what you're selling, but I would even argue that, because I've seen cases where it's not health, natural stuff related. You got people who just make things, widgets or whatever. And again, these banks will decide on a whim on, okay, Simon says we're going to hold your stuff. And they'll do that. So, so what we're learning is to be a bit more savvy by saying, okay, instead of just depending on one, let's get several of these people, processes lined up. So if one acts up, we can have some other ones going on, because what's not going to change is, you're not going to take away my integrity. You're not going to take away our character. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. All of y'all can get on the escalator, the Tom and Jerry escalator, and go straight to hell on that. But no, you're not doing that. Okay. So I told you, and I'm almost wrapping up here. So I went from literally saying, you know what, I'm done, not going to do this. Then I start really thinking about all the different things and getting back to the whole thing about Greenwood, and just thinking about my own family and all that stuff. And I start thinking about all the stuff that we put in, everything that we put into this, and realizing that, no, I'm not going to give up on that. I'm not doing that, because this is exactly what they want. So no, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to just simply walk away from that. As far as customers, you lose them, whatever. There's millions and millions of other people out there that you can find and reach or whatever. And if you're worth your salt, you'll find some, and you'll continue to grow and continue to, be whatever, but this is the reality of it, because I know this is before this happened. We had a I got a mess. We had an email from someone, a black person, that says, see, this is why, their stuff was late, and they were saying, see, this is why, I don't like dealing with black owned businesses because of stuff like this. You order stuff and it's all late and all this other stuff. So I'm here to help you, to let you understand that, some of these businesses, and we're talking small owned businesses, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that, they don't know how to run a business or anything like that. It's not that at all. It's these other challenges too that businesses are facing. I'm talking small businesses that are based online, that have to deal with these payment processors. It's that, and this is becoming a huge thing right now. It's huge right now. A lot of people aren't talking about it because a lot of people, don't stick around long enough when it comes to entrepreneurship. Remember, I told you, or other people have said this, most businesses fail within the first 5 years. We've been at this being entrepreneurs, my wife and I, for over 25 years. Okay, so we know the ups and downs, but this is the first time we've dealt with this, where they just, at any given moment, they can just pull the plug on you. So when so again, do you have some entrepreneurs out there that just don't know what the heck they're doing and they, or whatever? Yes, absolutely. You do have some, but don't judge all black businesses off of that. Of course, we're not Amazon or, some of these other large big box retailers, because quite frankly, they don't have the same problems. They have their own banks. They have their own resources. They're in a position where they can call the shots. But the reality is that for the smaller operations, well, it's a little bit different. And there are challenges. But one thing I'm saying to you is this, is that our integrity is still intact. Our character is still intact. And when we tell people that, hey, listen, what we put into each and every package and making sure we're getting it out, and the amount of what we put into that, we're doing everything. We mean that. Sometimes we'll write a little note of encouragement on some of the orders and all that stuff. That's coming from us. That's what we do, because that's how much we really believe in you. That's how much we believe in what we're doing. And we've already seen the results. The amount of emails we've gotten from people who are saying that they have changed, from medications that they had used to take, and they don't take them anymore, things like that. We're going to continue to do that. That's not changing. But these are the real challenges that, as entrepreneurs, that you're facing. If you have a business that is based online, these are the real challenges that we are now facing. This is the new reality. And so that's that. So I just wanted to talk about, because I know I haven't, and Nicole was like, well, don't, make sure you wait for me. I want to talk about this or that or whatever. And so, yeah, I'm not, I'm gonna let her, because she's much better at, because she know all the details. Oh, you did say that, I'm gonna let her tell all that other part. But, but for now, that's the part I want to share as far as that's concerned. So if you are somebody out here, and you have been impacted, make sure you check your emails, because we've already been emailing people and letting you know, okay, this is that or whatever. And if you choose not to, spend anything from us again, that's fine. I'm not mad at you at all. Not mad at you at all. But we're going to continue to do what we're doing, because we understand the importance of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm going to commit to. But I tell you what, I have to say that I have not come out of this a changed person is an understatement, because there's a lot of things that I will be sharing in the days, in the weeks ahead, that I got out of this. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be the same at all. I'm not going to be the same. This was very difficult, very, very difficult. And, but we're definitely we're starting to see a turnaround and all of that. And even during this time, people still been, ordering and all of that, and we're getting stuff out and all of that. But we, it is what it is, so, so yeah. And, so just wanted to mention that to you. Oh, there was the other thing too that happened, and this ain't even the whole. It's like, oh God, it's not. I got an email from an attorney that said that, you guys, we went on your website and we see that you were using an image of our client, and it was a product or something like that, and they said that, this is illegal, you can't do this and all that, and they had all this legalese and stuff. And see, we've been through the fire so much, ain't nobody losing any sleep. And I was like, okay, I changed it out. I said, okay, that was done some time ago. We were putting the site together. That's it. But now you got AI. You could just replace it and put together that. So I wrote them back, told them, hey, we changed it. Our bad, whatever. That's it. And they were like, that's not good enough. We demand $10,000. If not, we're going to take you to federal court and all this other stuff. So, I mean, that's a nothing burger. That's nothing because, I mean, I've already looked it up. It's like you're not, the amount of resources you're going to have to take just to go that route over an image that's probably worth $10. It's whatever. But, they do prey on people, on small businesses like that. There's a whole cottage industry where they prey on small businesses and they look for things like that. And they immediately, because if you read the letter, they were like already trying to get me into some kind of payment arrangement to pay them 10 grand for something like that. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, who is y'all? So, you legally, yeah, you're right. We'll change out the image. That's it. But nah, again, another one go to hell. You know what I'm saying? No. So there's a lot, okay? When you are an entrepreneur in this day and age, there's a lot that as you are expanding and you're growing and all of that you have to deal with, not to mention your own people. You got, folks that they don't hear this part of it. And so what they do is they just assume that you ain't like the other businesses that I go to. Mr. Charlie, he always got his stuff together, all that kind of stuff. But they don't hear this part of it. So I just wanted to take the time and share that with you, so, for those of you who are looking into getting to be an entrepreneur and all of that, these are the real challenges. But there are ways that you can find that you can navigate through that. It's like anything else, our people have a long history of finding different ways to navigate around things. And this is really no different at all. This is no different. There are ways to do it, but we just have to become more savvy, and that's what we're doing. So I just wanted to share that with you so that many of you can, hear that part of it and all of that. And, hopefully, a man's journey, how they go, a man's experience can save you. I forgot what the saying goes, but basically you can learn from our experience and don't have to go through that journey yourself. Okay. How about that? That's what I'll say. So hopefully you can learn from that and not have to go through all of that yourself. But yeah, that's it. Shoot, may even teach a class on it. Okay. So that's part one. I knew that part was going to go long. But yeah, so I just wanted to give you that. So what we'll do now is let's take a short break, all right? A short break. And then we're going to get into part two. We're going to get into part two, what you saw on the thumbnail. We're going to talk about the Black community and what it really is today. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that in a moment here. Let me find some music to play, just a little bit of music just to kind of break things up a little bit. Let me see what this sounds like because I got a ton of music here. Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds good enough to me. So yeah, give me about 1 minute and then we're going to have this conversation about the Black community. Thanks for hanging in there with me and listening to our story there, y'all. All right, we're getting ready to restart the whole thing, y'all, or continue, I should say. Thanks again for hanging in there. Really appreciate it. And again, yes, site is still up, of course. Make sure you head over to sombatry.com tonight. Like I said, again, that's where we're going to do the switch over to our other site. And it's it's going to be like later on tonight or whatever. And so you'll notice aesthetically it'll look a little bit different or whatever. But the payment processing, everything will be, you'll be fine. You'll be able to do everything right there on the site, like as you were able to do before. And but like I said, again, we're lining other processors up and all of that too, so we're not going to have that issue. Hopefully we'll definitely be able to minimize that happening and again. But all the more reason, we're looking at it's nothing but up from here. So anyway, but I will say this, I'm very appreciative to my wife, my children, because I told them, where I was, last week or so. I said, listen, if y'all want me to continue doing this, you're going to have to tell me, because, for me, I'm not about wasting time. If something ain't it, I'm not going to, not so much wasting time. I don't want to continue to put my family in a position of just a lot of pressure. If that's going to be happening on a regular basis, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And so, they see it. And so that's it. Cause like I said, I can go either way at this point. If that's the case, then, whatever. But yeah. So anyway, so let's move on to the next topic here. And this one here is something that I have been watching, even through all of this stuff here. I'm going to put this on here because this is going to be the underlying theme of what we're going to be talking about in this portion of the broadcast here. If you have been, of course, I know many of you have kept your eyes and your ears on the, of course, you've heard a lot about the Jasmine Crockett and her losing her race and all of that. And just the freak out that took place because she lost, her race. And it was something because Jasmine Crockett said out of her own mouth, she said she instructed potential voters for her. She said, listen, don't vote for me because I'm black. She said, do not vote for me because I'm a woman. She said, vote for me because I'm qualified, and I'm qualified. That's what she said. That's what she said, and that's what she told the voters. And so when she lost, it automatically turned to racism. I mean, you knew that was going to happen. It's racism and all of that. But, I was on X and people just all on X just screaming and hollering. I mean, the videos that I had lined up here, do I even play some of them? Let me see if I can go to my bookmarks here and go to some of these here. And man, oh man, these people were just, there were videos of women in the car. Here you go right here. Here's one of them. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. People in their car, they were just losing it because Jasmine Crockett lost. And here's one right here, 36 seconds. Let's see what this sounds like here.
Okay, I'm so upset. I cannot believe this is happening to our country. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, Governor Abbott. All y'all. Shame. Shame on you guys. This is ridiculous. You're gonna do whatever you can to suppress our votes. You already gerrymandered everything. And you just gotta make it worse. You just gotta make it harder, huh? That's okay. I still fucking voted, you bastards.
And she's not the only one. I mean, I could have done a compilation But like I said, given what I've just shared with you for the last past half an hour, I hardly had the energy to do all of that. I mean, I literally did not had the energy to do that at all. But I did save quite a few of them on here. I'm trying to find this something for y'all. Hold on just a second here. Let me see if I can find this thing here. Oh yeah, here. Is this it? Yeah, here it go. Good. I did save it. Okay. And so you had and so like I said again, it was filled with people like you see here. All right. And I start noticing, I'm sitting back and I started noticing a trend here. Of course, you had the 92% women, and that's code for black feminists. So anytime you hear me say the 92%, because that's what they call themselves, that really is a code for black feminists. That's who they are. Okay. And the other group that I noticed, because I would see black men speaking, and when you're scrolling on social media, on your timeline or whatever, and I like having the volume off. I don't like hearing too many voices. It start going crazy a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I had the volume turned off, and I'm scrolling and I'm looking and I'm like, why is it that all these men look zesty? All of them do. I mean, the hands just are going and all of this stuff. And then I said, wait a minute. I said, okay, maybe I'm just imagining this. Let me turn the volume on and listen to it. And the S's were just a carrying, just a, and this are, the S's are just all over the place. It's raining S's. The S's are just all over the place. And all of this stuff, and they doing this and all this stuff. And I'm looking, right? And I said, so we got the 92%, and we got these gay black men. But I'm not really seeing any other men here. I'm not seeing any other men that's really making a big deal about this. And the demographics were quite similar to what I saw when Kamala, when she lost. It was the same thing. It was mostly these black feminists and gay black men who were losing it. That's what I saw. And I noticed that. And I was like, okay. So the conversation that we've been having on this platform, we have been saying that the black church is basically it's a black feminist LGBTQ organization. Remember I was saying that? Well, now we can't even say that anymore now, because now we have to officially say that what we know today as the black community is likewise a community that is led primarily by black feminists and black LGBTQ individuals. That's the community. When we say black community today, that's what we see. That's what you see. When you're on television, and when you're looking at television, you're looking at the talking heads. Most of the people fall into that category. Many of them do. And even though they may not be themselves gay or whatever, but still they fall, like I said again, in those categories. And I will say this. Then you got the men, because this is going to get into Jamal Bryant. Okay, do I have his image up? Let me get Jamal Bryant up here. Let me see if I have him up here. Hold on, let me see. Oh, yeah, yeah, good. I did screenshot this. Let me bring this up here. See, you think I'm playing around. You think I'm playing around. You think I'm exaggerating. Look at this. So you got this woman here on the far left. I forgot her name, but she's definitely liberal. With the bald head. Again, some women I do know you may deal with, hair growth issues and all that. That may be the case. I don't know. It's up to you, whatever. But, some of these women that do this kind of stuff is kind of like a power statement. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not necessarily saying that's her case, but I am saying that let's not fool around here. You do have some black women who do that, and because they're trying to make that kind of statement. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying. And I also know too, this same woman, someone was attacking, what's his name, Bernie Sanders, and now she was a press secretary for Bernie Sanders, which means that she handles the press. But this woman all of a sudden turned into He-Man, and I'm not exaggerating, you can look it up. And the guy that rushed the stage, turned into full linebacker and bum rushed the dude and pushed him off the stage. Like all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute, sis, what are you doing all this for? So yeah, so she got that kind of energy. And then of course the other two individuals, both of them are gay. Now again, like I said again, let me just be very clear here in what I'm saying here. I've said this many times on this platform, and I'll say it again. I am not mad. I am not angry. If you are someone that is gay, you're lesbian or whatever, that's your choice. That's your life. That's you, okay? Personally, I don't hate you, okay? So don't come with that, okay? I'm not him. I'm not whoever it is that did hurt, harm, or danger to you. That's not me, okay? Anybody that comes my way, if you're human and you treat me with respect, just like I treat you with respect, you're going to get the respect in kind. In other words, nobody's asking you to kiss my foot. Nobody's asking you to kiss my behind. I'm just simply saying, we pass in the street or whatever, hi, whatever, that's it. You don't say hi, don't care either. I'm fine with that too. Okay. I don't care. I literally don't. Okay. So I'm going to treat you just like anybody else until you give me a reason not to. Now, if you're if you stop and ask me my personal belief on your chosen lifestyle, I will tell you what I think. I have no problem with that. I will tell you exactly what I think. And I'll point to you to the facts, not my emotions or anything like that. No religious foundation thing, nothing. I'm just going to point to the facts on it. And I'm just going to tell you now, what you do with that is completely up to you. And that's it. You could take it or leave it. You know what I'm saying? But that's it. I'm going to tell you what that. And then the other thing, of course, is if you are an individual that messes around with children, then yes, then get your ass on a bomber, get your ass on the largest plane you can find, and yes, let us load all of y'all up and drop you in the middle of the ocean. I don't care if you gay, lesbian, whatever, or even straight. You start messing with children, then you need to get dealt with on that. I don't care. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is you find a lot of those stories coming out of that group. But people don't want to talk about that. And what I just said, it also applies to a lot of these straight men that are out here that on the low, they do mess around with little children. I will personally usher your ass on those planes and drop you in the ocean. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you too. Because a lot of these people that are now grown and are questioning who they are is because of some dirty, dusty old either man or woman did something to them a long time ago, and nobody wants to talk about that. Well, guess what? Now those children are grown, and now they are leading what we call the black community. We want to talk about the content of character. We want to have that conversation. Remember, we talked about that. Everybody wants to pull from MLK. You're going to have to tell the whole truth about MLK. MLK, he was a freak behind the scenes, confirmed by his own inner circle. And if that is what you do in secret, if that's what you do in the dark, guess what? It's going to come out on everybody that follows you. Don't believe me? Look at all the people that consider them, that look at TD Jakes and say that TD Jakes is their spiritual father. Isn't it interesting that all of these people that consider TD Jakes as their spiritual father, all of them having marital issues. All of them are doing extra stuff behind closed doors. Some of them messing around with little kids. It's always something, but yet he's clean. Ain't nothing. He ain't do nothing. But all these other people, I am telling you, you want to measure a man, you want to measure a woman, you look at the people that they follow. You look at the people that they follow. And like the old saying goes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And so what has happened, unfortunately, is because, again, church combined with other things, feminism has come in, and now we have a situation that is going completely off the rails and is out of control to where now it's just normalized. Now all of a sudden it's normal for the next rapper to come out to say that, okay, I'm gay or whatever, or the next football player, whoever. It's normalized right now. It's normal for us to sit back and listen. I know my people, okay? I know black folks, and I know how hospitable we are, and I know how protected. Black folks, when it comes to protecting children, never mind what you're seeing today, y'all. Never mind what you're seeing today, okay? Some of the stuff that you're seeing today. I have a video I want to do, but I just don't think folks are ready for it yet, because I do have a theory about this. But anyway, but I'll just say this. Black folks, when we're in our right minds, when it comes to taking care of children and loving children, we have a long history of that, of being that, loving our children, taking care of children. Oftentimes we take of other people's children like it's nothing. It's just automatic. It's just instinct. That's just who we are. So when you hear adults talking about, when, if mom or dad wasn't home or whatever, they said, child, we would go across the street or whatever to Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so's house, and they'll take care of us until they come. That was normal. That was normal. But today, the feminist movement, they are pushing, we talk about LGBT, right? LGBT. When you get to that T part, what's the T part? Transgenderism. And what's transgenderism? Transgenderism is basically when you have an individual that says that they are claiming to be something else that they were not born to be. And for some of those individuals, they will go as far as literally going to a doctor's, going to a hospital, and having the doctors to strip off skin off of their bodies to create new appendages so that they can be somebody else. Our beautiful young girls going to doctors and having their beautiful breasts cut off so that they can be somebody else. And I'm telling you right now, that is not the nature of black folks that I know, that I grew up with, that I'm familiar with. That's my history. That's my culture. That's my legacy. That is not our history. That is not black culture. It is not. And I don't care who says it. I don't care who's out here preaching. I don't care what Bible you preaching from. I don't care where you coming from with that. Anybody, white, black, Asian, whatever you are, anybody that co-signs on that, you yourself can also go to hell. That is not what we know as black culture, period. It's not. And so someone here on, the person's name, this guy, well, he calls himself Laverne Cox. Let me see if I can find this. Very interesting. Very interesting. Vern Cox is a man, but again, he's a trans, he dresses up like a woman and all of that. Excuse me. I don't know if he, did the whole thing or not. Let me see if it's under here. If not, I can find it. Let me see. If I can find it here. But anyway, Laverne, oh, here it is. Oh, shoot, the thing jumping up. Okay, here we go. Now, this is a man speaking. I want you to take a listen to what this man is saying. And this is a man, and, you can go jump in the lake, how you going to say that? No, that's what it is. That's what he is. Now, I want you to listen to him because what he's saying is something that we have said on this platform for a very long time. And, some people didn't like it or whatever, but the facts are the facts. The facts are the facts. And now all of a sudden, apparently, it's okay now to say what you're going to hear him say. Let me make this a little bit smaller here. Take a listen to what he is saying when he was on MSNBC. Take a listen. He's saying it.
And there's been a rise in anti-Semitism all over the country right now, and it's disgusting and it's horrible. People should know that one of the first things that the Nazis did, and I think it was in 1933, was they burned Magnus Hirschfeld's gender for sexuality. Magnus Hirschfeld was studying trans people, LGBTQ people. Lily Elby, who the Danish Girl, the film The Danish Girl was about, she had her first gender-affirming procedure at Magnus Hirschfeld's clinic. The Nazis burned it down. All of this research, and there were
absolutely correct. 100% correct. What he said is 100% correct. And like I said, again, we've talked about that at great length. Magnus Hirschfeld is, in fact, he was a Jewish individual that was in Berlin. It's claimed that he had the largest collection of pornography, since the Roman Empire. And we went into great detail on what was going on in Berlin during that time. This is before the rise of Nazism and all that kind of stuff. But there was some crazy stuff that they were involved in. There was some crazy stuff these people were doing. So what this individual did is that he put a direct linkage between transgenderism and Jewish culture. Let me go here. I played this as well. You don't want to take his word for it? Okay, fine. I've played this as well. Let a Jewish woman, let her tell you. Don't think I'm making things up, right? I'm making things up. Okay, let her sing it for you. She put it to song.
There's 6 sexes, genders in the Talmud with many mentions. Let's get into what they are. There's Nakeva and Zakar, the two you hear as female and male. Androgynous for an intersex person with both female and male sex characteristics. To a person with obscured or unclear sexual characteristics. Elo needs someone assigned female at birth, but who expresses male characteristics later in life. Sorry, someone assigned male at birth, but develops female characteristics later in life and or has their sexual organs removed. Saris and Eloni often are described as infertile. And while life has lots of rules, don't let binaries be a hurdle to loving yourself for exactly you.
Don't believe me, right? So anyway, so that's where it comes from. Now, it's been around, some of this stuff that we see today is certainly, it predated even that group. Okay, you look at when you start studying some of these more ancient cultures. Uh-oh. Did my camera go out? Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I get my camera back up here. Hold on. Let's see. I'm still here, you guys. Hold on for just a second. Let me get... There we go. All right. So when you study some of these ancient cultures, you'll see that they've also had practices. You'll see different variations of these practices, even in other places. But again, also in Africa, if you go into ancient African culture, there's some tribes that did, you had some, the lesbian stuff going on, some of the gay stuff, but it wasn't a widespread thing. As much as feminists will try to say is widespread all throughout Africa, that's a huge lie. And that's not true at all. You will find that in some pockets, but it wasn't a widespread thing, right? But you do have this one culture that has been pushing this lifestyle, and it all comes down to who we call today the chosen people. Another I don't want to get too far off on that. But what I am saying is this, is that this mindset that basically this, when we talk about feminism and when we talk about the LGBT movement, both of them, the origins of it, these are adopted ideologies that do not originate from black people. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When you look at the feminist movement, the feminist movement, basically, again, this was something that was brought in via the CIA. When they initially tried to push that on black women, and this was like in the mid 60s, the early 70s, black women actually rejected it. They rejected it. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. They didn't want to have anything to do with it, but eventually they kept going at it, and finally they was able to get black women on board with it, the whole feminist movement. So you saw that going on. Meanwhile, LGBTQ, they kept pushing that and making that a huge thing to create a whole nother wedge with that as well. And then what they did was they bundled it in a message where the churches, well, if Jesus was around, he would protect both of them. If Jesus was around, he would co-sign on all of this stuff. And then the church didn't really help the situation because the church was already doing something. And see, let's go back even in church history when we're talking about black churches. And this is what you got to understand. Black churches, again, it weren't always bad. Okay, they were not. And I would even argue, even today, you got many people within black churches today that aren't bad people. I would never say that. There's some very good, dear, precious people that still attend these churches today. So let's be clear with that. When you look at black church history, you will find that one of the good characteristics of of people in the black church was that we want to take care of everybody. So even if you had somebody that came in that was acting a little funny and they were gay or whatever, you knew it, right? You would just say, oh, he just a little whatever. He just been around mama too long or whatever. But you didn't necessarily outcast them. He was out. It was weird. It was like sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. But the church still had a long history of keeping these folks in. You know what I mean? Keeping them in-house. They just didn't want to face, okay, how did Junior get to that point? They didn't want to have that kind of conversation. But for the most part, the church did allow these folks to come in. And I'm not an advocate to tell people you need to run folks out or whatever. I think you'd have to be honest with people and say, okay, let's talk about how you got to this point. And we're not going to sit up here and lie to each other and say that you were born that way, because we ain't buying that. But let's find out what happened. What can we do? You know what I'm saying? Had those kind of conversations. You know what I mean? And the church ain't willing to have that. It never been. And so it was an easy fit for the black church, especially with the rise of feminism and the rise of LGBT, because the church, even at that time, it was already full of mostly women and mostly homosexuals. When you look at the Love Center with the Hawkins family, their whole church was full of homosexuals. I mean, the people could sing like I don't know nobody's business, but most of the church was gay. It was built on that, right? A lot of these guys, it was a church in New York, same thing, known for its choirs and all of that, full of gay people. When you look at black church history, particularly in the area of music, it's gay people all over the place. If we're gonna be honest, let's be honest. And so what I'm saying is this: it's one thing to be hospitable and to say, listen, what we're not going to do is we're not going to run you out in the street and tell you and treat you like garbage. That's one thing. Okay. You don't do that. I mean, to human beings, you don't do that. Okay. I'm not an advocate for that. But what I am an advocate for is what has been missing in what we would call the community is the sit down, is the honesty and saying, okay, how did this happen? And because we haven't had those kind of conversations, that's why you get a Donnie McClurkin, someone that can be elevated to the highest heights within the church, and he's still chasing little men, boys and stuff around. But on the flip, This is how you also get a Jamal Bryant. Now, Jamal Bryant, he may not be gay, but he is certainly a person we can all clearly see that this is a man who's never had a real man in his life to correct him. And when I say correct him, I ain't saying beat him. I'm saying to give him all the options, give him all the opportunity to learn how to be a real man, a man that's full of character. You can look at this man and clearly see this thing. How is it that this man can have multiple relationships, having baby mamas all over the nation, and still be in a position in a church, a major church in Atlanta, full of these feminists? Now think about this, how crazy this is. Because see, a lot of times you think, oh, feminists, they don't want to have nothing to do with men and all of that. No, they don't want to have nothing to do with men. They don't want to have nothing to do with men that are full of character and will stand on their 10. That's the people they don't want to deal with. That's the people they don't want to deal with. And see, someone like a Jamal Bryant, he may be a male, but he is not a man. And I will tell him that straight in his face. Because even when you listen to, because just the pattern of the different things, the different choices that he's made in his life, and the fact that you don't have anybody in your life that will call that out and say, you need to sit your whole ass down. The fact that nobody is bold enough to tell him that tells me everything I need to know. But you know, I've shared this some time ago, and I said, you know how, I shared this some time ago. We went to, my wife and I, and our children were small, you know, smaller. We went to that same church. Before Jamal Bryant became the pastor, you had Eddie Long. Eddie Long was the pastor. And I remember in that church, Eddie Long, I would see the men that was around him. Now, you know, Eddie Long, for some of y'all old enough, you remember he used to wear all those muscle shirts and all that. And, you know, and people look at that and think, oh, he's just masculine. He's a masculine man and all of that. It was direct opposite. He was basically trying to project something he was not. He would say a lot of things that did attract a lot of men in that, in what he was saying with his mouth. Even me, because I was like, wow, this dude, he's laying out fire when it comes to men and all of that. Man, but it wasn't until I got close enough and I started seeing some things. When we were in that ministry, I started noticing some things. I was like, oh, hell no, I don't want nothing to do with that, because I saw how soft those men really were around him. And what I'm telling you is, in these churches, you have men, even though they may not be gay, they have been beat down enough by the pastor to a place where they are afraid to call that pastor out on anything. They won't call him out. Look at this picture here. This is one I was looking for here. This is Jamal Bryant. You going to sit up here and tell me that a masculine man would wear something like that? I'm just saying. You going to tell me that a masculine man would wear some pants like that? Well, Dwayne, that's just not your style. That ain't masculine. It just isn't. It just isn't. And I'm not saying he's got to have work boots on and jeans with oil on them and all that. Nobody's saying all of that stuff. Let me not mention oil, because, you know, that may be baby. Some people may think I'm talking about baby oil. I ain't talking about that. Okay? I ain't talking about no baby oil. But what I'm saying is, no, you ain't going to find no masculine men following something like that. But that has become normalized. This has become the new normal when it comes to masculinity within the black church. Now, what's happening now is Jamal Bryant recently, I think it was Wednesday, he did was some kind of big announcement basically saying that the boycott against Target is over with. And he thought for a moment that all of these people were going to just follow suit and fold in and say, okay, that's it. That ain't what's happening. A lot of these same women that were following him, all of a sudden they say, no, Pastor, we ain't following you. That's our stuff. We started it. And we're not following you. Now, let me talk about that for a second. Let me talk about that. So, number one, let me go back to something I said earlier because I didn't finish this thought, is that, again, Jamal Bryant is just one pastor out of many pastors all throughout the country that are just like him. And it's, number one, these pastors like this, these are liars. They're straight up liars. And I'm telling you, and let me go ahead and tell you why. Because they know deep down inside, I am very convinced they know the truth. They know the truth. And they purposely, and I touched on it just a moment ago, they will purposely surround themselves with weak men, because if they got somebody that will be bold enough to tell them when they're, and be an encouragement, they got plenty of that, but someone that would tell them, oh no, Pastor, don't go out there on stage like that. That looks gay. Are you gay, Pastor? Let's have that conversation. You look like a whole woman with that. Is that what we're doing now? I could look at what the man's wearing. Ain't no straight men around this dude. In fact, I was just doing just a little look up. He has a man. The man looked gay to me, but regardless, where he gets some of his suits tailored, this same man that he goes to tailor his suits, he does suits for gay weddings. How you gonna teach anyway? But nobody wants to talk about it. But anyway, here's the point that I was trying to get to. The reason why, and even though this seems like kind of opposite, like, okay, well, how is it that these feminist women would want to still be around a weak man? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the little masculinity that he still houses is enough to give them validation. Because they know the little masculinity that he has in him, it ain't going to stand up to those people. They're not going to stand up to that. They're not going to really stand up and tell the truth to a bunch of feminists. They're not going to stand up and tell the truth. Because he knows, and they know, that if he gets out of line, all they got to do is remind him of all the baby mamas that he's created, and they'll put them back in place. They both sides know this. Now, I'm using everything I'm saying here. I'm using this as an example as we're talking about this whole black community thing, and we spent a lot of time with the church because the church itself has been the centerpiece of the black community. So why not talk about the church, right? And so I saw this happen on Vail, like between yesterday and today, and these people are turning on him. I mean, how long is that going to last? I don't know. But my point is that this is really the black community. What we're seeing today, what we call the black community, is made up of what you see in the top. I guess that's the right-hand corner of your screen. Is that. Let me just move Jamal. I'll just minimize him a little bit down here. And I'll make this big. This is your new leadership right here. And so when I was sitting there and I was watching how this fallout of Jasmine Crockett and all of this stuff, and, oh Lord, the Jasmine Crockett, nobody likes black women at all. They don't give us a chance. They hate all of us. All of that, right? Well, again, it just takes a minute to look things up. And I said, just for the record, again, let me just pull this up here just for the record, so we can get this cleared out too. All right, hold on. Let me get this up here. Okay, so here you go. I got it right here. Let me minimize that. Let me pull this up here on the screen for you so you could take a look at this right here. So what I did was, and it didn't take me long at all, you guys. I said, let me just look something up here. Of course, we know Jasmine Crockett lost, and, and so, that's that. And so you listen to a lot of these women out here that were saying that, it was racism. Nobody wants to give black women an opportunity. They're intimidated by black women. Well, I just did a simple search and I said, tell me in the last 5 years, I want you to list out for me all the black women who have been elected to public office in the last 5 years. Now, this is not including mayors. This is not including city council people. This is just like senators and congresswomen. And you know, this thing came back with 22 black women in major positions representing their states and their districts. 22. That's major. I call that, if you're keeping score, you know, just by color, you know, just if we're just looking at color alone, that is major. I mean, if you're talking policy, now that's something different. I'm not, you know, that's a whole nother different. I don't see that as a step forward for black people. But if you're talking just in color, yes, this is a big step for black women. It is. 22, at least 22. At least 22 black women all across the United States. And there's still elections that are happening where more black women are about to be elected. So for these people to sit up here and to act as if black women are not given an opportunity at all, you're not even trying to be honest. And so let's get back to this whole Target boycott thing. Number one, I really do not care where you shop. I'm not that person. I'm never going to get up here and tell you, don't shop at Target. Don't shop at here. Don't shop at there. Don't you know? Because first of all, let's just be honest here for a second. When you understand just how corrupt this system really is, you can shop at Walmart, you can shop wherever, and your dollars will still end up with the very people that hate you. Do you think these grocery stores love you personally? No, they love your money. They love your money. They don't love you. If you think the other options, the alternatives to Target are people that are welcoming you with open arms and saying, oh, I just love the curves of your body. I just love your full lips. I just love your 4C hair. Girl, I just love the way you talk, the way you move, the way you do all this stuff. You really think that these retail stores, you really think that's what they think of you when you come up in there? No, they saying, open your purse, get that 20, get it in my hand, and get out. That's what they're saying. They don't care about you and they don't love you. Okay? None of them do. Okay? They don't. So let's just cut the crap with that. Okay? So I don't care where you shop. Now, as far as Target is concerned, we've already talked about this. We've already covered Target and what happened. What started all this? The whole DEI stuff. The DEI Target said, all right, we rolling back prices here. And we also rolling back DEI. We ain't doing that no more. Now, what was DEI really about? It wasn't for, let me let you in on a secret. It wasn't for black people. It wasn't for black people. It wasn't for black people. Okay? Let me bring it up to you since you think I'm lying here. Okay? I know I'm sounding like I'm going crazy. I promise you I'm not. Okay? I'm not going crazy because I've been saying this stuff for how long, y'all? Okay, I've been giving you the receipts on this stuff forever. This is Black Enterprise. It says black people only comprise 4% of DEI positions in the workplace. DEI had nothing to do with black folks. It had nothing to do with black folks, very little. What I would say is that I would add a little whatever addendum to that. And I would say this, the 300,000+ black women who lost their jobs that we kept hearing about over and over again, we already looked that up. Remember the video we did? They were all federal workers. And we talked about the whole history of why you had black people who put all of their eggs in one federal basket and they lost. So yes, and also the constant when you're talking about federal jobs or even state jobs for that matter, people who tend to work in those positions, they oftentimes reject upgrades and technology and all of that. We did a very thorough piece on that, and we talked about that. And now in the age of AI, you can't play those games anymore. And guess what? They gambled and they lost. And that's why they lost their jobs. Now that's federal. Black women who worked in the federal space. We also looked at black women in the non-public sector, in the private sector. Guess what we found out? Black women in the private sector actually were doing good and getting better. So black women were not failing at all in the private sector. In the public sector, yes, they were. Okay, so again, but they don't want to tell you that whole story. I want to look at everything so that we can have a whole big picture and we can know what we're talking about and we can have a fair assessment of all of that instead of running out here and then crying victim for everything just because you got one person that lost a political race. Now the sky is falling. But anyway, let's get back here. What were we talking about? DEI. Okay, yeah, so DEI. DEI. So I've just been able to show you DEI wasn't really a black issue. It wasn't. DEI was primarily an issue for which group? LGBTQ. That's what DEI was really for. Oh, they mentioned black people, but it was really for that group. It wasn't for black people in general. No, it wasn't for that. In fact, I can't really think of, when I think of black men that I know of or whatever, I don't know too many black men that can honestly say, yeah, I got this job because of DEI. I've never heard of that. And I'm sure it's out there, but I've never really heard that. But it was really for that one group, LGBTQ. Now let's take a listen. Let's continue with this. So here you had people like Jamal Bryant, but all of these other black feminists that got on board and they said, we're going to boycott Target because of DEI. And they jumped on there and they screamed and hollered for the rooftops and saying, we as black people, we are going to boycott Target because they're getting rid of DEI. Now, again, for those of you who follow this platform, you know we take a very fine-tooth pick, okay? And we go through the details. You remember the black woman, what's her name? Someone can name it in the chat. The woman that's a, hey babies, how y'all doing? Y'all know what I'm talking about. And she's made it, been done quite well in Target. Now this black woman, now that's one, right? She had a deal. She had a contract with Target and she was doing quite well. But I said, we're not going to just look at her because we understood that Target wasn't just helping her. There were many black entrepreneurs during that time that they were actually helping. Do y'all remember? It's a product. It's called, and I've tried it. What is it called? It's called, I believe it's called Ghetto Gastro. Some of y'all may have seen it. If you've gone into Target, it's called Ghetto Gastro. It's a black owned business. Tabitha Brown. Go ahead, K teacher. Always on point. Thank you, sis. Appreciate it. And so anyway, Ghetto Gastro. And they do like it's, I'm putting in air quotes. I gotta be honest, y'all, because I did a taste test of it. I really liked, I was hoping, but I looked at those ingredients. I was like, y'all, okay, but okay, I'm still gonna buy it anyway. Doggone it, I'm still gonna support. You know what I mean? And so Ghetto Gastro is one. There was another, and they were doing pretty well for a minute. There was another one. It was a black woman who came out with these. It was a great idea, but what she did was it was like Black History, and she put it as player cards. Great idea, but even if you're on shelves like in Target, I mean, you gotta understand where we are today. In today's world, most of what people do is on their phones, and so the player card thing, that's as much as you want that to win, it's just not realistic. It just isn't. It is. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't sell that. That nobody's going to buy it. I'm just saying, just because you're on a Target shelf or a Walmart shelf, you're not going to have 50 people rushing in to buy that product. That's what I'm saying. I'm not. You understand? You get what I'm saying, right? And so, what she did is, she just got a whole bunch of these cards, and it's all over the place. And when you're going to supply your stuff on these shelves, like in Target or whatever, you can't just be making things to order, okay? No, you can't do that. You got to make sure you got thousands of this product in their warehouses so that, they can put out there. So she had a lot of these things, y'all. And unfortunately, I'm just looking at my lighting here. I'm like, man, I need to turn some of this down. Anyway, and so, yeah, it didn't do well. She didn't do well. Ghetto Gastro, the last I looked them up, I think they paused their operations. They didn't really go into details, but I'm saying this, but if you go into Target even today, and I don't really go into Target because it's really not in my way. You know what I'm saying? I don't typically go to stores that are out of my way unless it's really, really something. You know what I mean? It would have to be really, really something unique there for me to go out of my way to go to some of these stores. Target isn't necessarily a store I avoid to go. It's just not really in my daily path on what I do. You know what I'm saying? But if it was in my daily path and they had stuff I wanted, you daggone right, I'll go there just like I go anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but Target, I'm saying all this to say this, but there hasn't been a Target. I don't care how white the Target is, the neighborhood is in. Just about every time I've gone into a Target, let me turn this down because this is bothering me. I'm sorry. Let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. There hasn't been a Target I haven't been in. I mean, I can be in the liliest white section of town and I go into a Target. I'm like, man, where all these black people come from? I'm talking about employees, right? Black folks working there. They got jobs, right? They're working. They're able to pay their bills. They're able to take care of little basic things around the house, right? Black people, black men, black women, able to get a little something. Then you got, of course, like I just mentioned, the entrepreneurs. There's some black entrepreneurs, they have made it. I'm talking post the DEI rollback. You can go into Target today and still find black entrepreneurs in there, but they're not highlighted like they were before, but they're still there. It's anybody else. Anybody can, there's a whole rigorous process you have to go through with Target. Target, to my knowledge, they've never been like, halt, we ain't no niggers allowed. I've never seen that. Target wants to make money because they are a business. And if they believe that the product that you're making, that you have, is something that can make them money just like it made you money, Target will be a plumb fool to reject you. They don't care if you're green, purple, blue, orange, polka dot. If you are making something that they're like, oh, snap, we want you in our store, Target is going to have you on their shelves. That's how it's been, y'all. The only reason why you don't see us putting some of our stuff out there is because we ain't at that point yet. We'll admit that in a second. I ain't trying to aim that high yet. Let me take care of this stuff first, okay? Before I start thinking that high, okay? But it is a golden opportunity for people out there, and there are black people still that are taking advantage of it, and they are profiting from it. I am telling you because I've looked into this. I'm not just saying it just to say it. See, everybody had the heat for Tabitha Brown, but there's other black entrepreneurs that are in there today. But yet you got these dumb folks that have gotten together because they're so emotional, they want to shut all of that down. They want to shut all that down. And again, to keep black people in this never-ending cycle of fail. Where it's just like when you get up there and all of a sudden it's a rug pull. Oh, we gotta boycott them now, whatever. Oh, now we gotta boycott now. And no thought of what's the impact this is going to have on the black women and the black men that work in these places. What's the impact this is going to have on the black entrepreneurs that finally got to a place where they can get their stuff on a national level? What's the impact that's going to have? But see, what I'm going to tell you as I'm bringing this to a close is this: when you are in those groups, in that feminist group, when you're in that the black gay group, because they're both in that same spectrum, when you are in groups like that, you are destructive in your mindset, self-destructive. You are self-destructive. That's where you want to know where the road leads. That's where it leads. And like I said again, and let me just say this again, listen, this does not reflect all black women. I'll say that over and over again. When I say black feminists, I'm calling out a specific group. I am not saying all black women are like that. I will continue to say that until the day I'm no longer here. I do not believe that this group represents the sum total of all black women. I don't believe that. Just like I would say gay black men do not represent the sum total of black men. They do not. They do not. But the movement that we're seeing today, look, I want you to take another look at this right now. What you're seeing right now, this is your new black leadership. This is what you're seeing right now. And there's a lot of people that look at this and they'll say that they don't have any problem with that. They don't see a problem with that. And I'm going to mess some of you guys up right now. Look at the organization ADOS. Uh-oh. Now, do I agree with the whole reparations argument? Absolutely. I've been saying that. But look who's in leadership of that. Well, that shouldn't matter. Yeah, it should matter. It should matter. Because when you're talking about moving a person, when you're talking about moving a community forward, okay? When you're talking about moving a community forward, if the red flags are in your face and telling you, okay, this person is pretending to be someone that they're not, there needs to be a full pause on that. It just does. And they may be the nicest, sweetest person, all of that, all day and all night. I'm serious. They may be fine and all of that on a day-to-day. You can work with them and all that kind of stuff. But when you are talking about moving the legacy, when you're talking about moving the history, when you're talking about moving people forward, families forward that are healed, that are whole, that are well, when you're talking about moving all of that forward and progressing upward, and your leaders look like this, you're not going anywhere. That's the point I want to make. So if you find yourself part of something that you call the black community, and these are your spokespeople, these are the people that you look to speak on your behalf, then you have to find yourself, either you stay compliant and just go with it and roll with it, or you have to build your own community. You have to see yourself, yes, the color of your skin is black, absolutely. But on this platform, we talk about something deeper. We go into much deeper than that. You are more than your skin color. You are more than that. Let me tell you this as we are closing this, and I am going to bring this done. We're done. There's something that I want to share with you. Yes, I'm gonna share it with you. I'm gonna read it to you. Let me get this up on the screen here, and I promise you we are done for the evening. Now, some of this is what I'm going to tell you is going to be a challenge. What I'm about to share, I'm telling you right now, for some of you, what I'm about to share with you It's going to be a challenge. I actually wanted to make this, and I probably still am. I'm going to make this into a separate video, but let me get this up here on the screen. And oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, let me get this on the screen. Let's get Jamal out of here. Let's get him out of here. He ain't got nothing more for us tonight. Let me bring this over here, and I'm going to read something to you. Okay. I'm going to read something to you, and this is how we're going to end this evening. Okay. I'm just scrolling until I get to it because I had to get it. Had it edited a little bit here. Hold on. Now I was going to make this into a post too, but I just had to really kind of sit on it for a minute, and I was still processing it myself. But hold on for a second. Let me see. I'm almost there, y'all. Hold on. If not, I have it on my phone. I'll just do that. Hold on. Oh, you know what? I think. You know what? Let me look here. Hold on for a second. I know another place I have it. Okay, here we go. I have it. So I'm going to read something to you. I got it here. Okay. So I told y'all, so just hang on to your seats. It's going to be challenging. Okay, it really is. And I'm not just saying that. I'm literally not hyping you up. I'm really telling you. So really hang on to your seats. It's going to be challenging for some of y'all. Okay, so here we go. I said, what I'm about to share with you may frighten some of you. For some, it might actually shake you to your very core. For some, it may make you angry. In fact, you may even get angry at me for even saying this. But still, there will be some who will just might want to stick around this ride that we're about to take. What if we took a newborn baby and placed it in a box? Now, don't worry. The box is very well ventilated. The baby does get fed and cleaned up. But nobody sings or holds the baby at all. And when the baby cries, nobody is there to bring it comfort. Now, fast forward, the baby does what all babies do. Eventually, the baby grows up and yes, adjustments are made to the box to accommodate the size of this growing individual. This fully developed child eventually becomes an adult. This adult is not allowed to leave the box and is led to a white room that only has a chair and a table. Now, let me stop here for a second because I just want to be clear. This is not something that was written by AI. I wrote this. Okay, so this ain't something I'd say, AI, give me a story. No, I wrote this. Okay, so I'm just letting you know. Okay. All right. So anyway, where were we? Becoming an adult. Let's see. This adult is now allowed to leave the box and is led to a white room that only has a chair and a table. Because this adult being has never seen a chair or table before, the adult has to be shown by motion how to sit on a chair. Now, you have been assigned to interview this adult being you've been assigned to interview this adult being to ask one question. Who is God? The adult would more than likely respond in shock as this would be the first time hearing the voice of another human being. After the initial shock, you ask the question again. Who is God? The adult continues to stare in confusion because language lessons didn't come with living in the box for all of those years. This adult doesn't even know how to speak. So this adult is now moved to a large garden outdoors. It's space that stretches for miles, but it's still gated and secured. You motion to this adult to go out to the garden and to stay there. Naturally, I think this adult would initially be overwhelmed with all the with this whole new environment, an environment filled with all types of new noises, trees, insects, animals, the wind, the feeling of grass on the skin, the dominance of the sun in the sky, and the warmth that it provides. The experiment calls for you to leave this child out in the garden for 5 years. The day of the 5th year comes and you enter the garden. Where many would have thought that this adult would have died of starvation, this adult actually is very much alive. Like all living beings, this adult has innate ability to understand hunger, and together with his innate food acceptance rejection mechanisms, this adult was able to figure out how to solve hunger issues. It was also discovered that this adult developed a deep understanding of the garden environment and even developed a way to communicate with some of its inhabitants. So once again, you motion to this adult to take a seat and you ask the very same question you asked in the first time you met. Who is God? How do you think this adult would answer? Now, I provided you with this rather lengthy story for a simple reason. To demonstrate that the majority of what we know as human beings has been taught to us. Even our concept of God is something that has been taught. We are not born quoting scriptures or with a driven need to go to church or to pray to some being we believe lives up in the sky. The very same thing applies to people not born into a Christian-based environment. The concept of a God is taught. Now the next logical question we should ask is, who taught us that there was a God in the first place? Despite all pronouncements that declare that human beings are born with the innate understanding of God, it is simply not true at all. Just as we had to be taught how to speak, read, what utensils to use, our own name, heck, even the importance of having a name, God was taught to us. And depending on who was the one doing the teaching, determined which God you should acknowledge. Now, let me end with this. The worship of God is considered sacred across virtually every culture on earth. Yet those who hold power seems to operate by a different set of rules. Their participation in religion is largely performative, a public display designed to encourage the masses to remain devoted, obedient, and faithful. It keeps the people anchored to a belief system that promotes patience, deference, and hope for a reward in the afterlife. But notice the contradiction. These same powerful figures are rarely held to the standards of the very faith they publicly champion. Their sins are overlooked, their transgressions forgiven, their loyalty to God never seriously questioned. It is as if they hold a permanent exemption because at some level they understand that this God is something that they do not answer to. It is something they helped create. What would happen if we had a way to extract from ourselves everything we have learned since birth and begin at base level, just like our child in the box? Would God even exist? Now, I told you this was going to be very challenging when I was going to read to you. Very challenging. Am I saying that you are God? No, I'm not saying any of the sort. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is this, is that when you step back, my challenge to you is this, is to begin, when you begin to take the time and really think, start meditating and start thinking, you begin to see just how much the things that we claim we know was actually taught to us. There are a lot of things that we just accept as just absolute simply because someone taught it to us. And what has happened is we have developed a whole identities, whole personas over something that somebody has taught to us. And what I am saying to you is this, again, for those of you who are, again, this is not to tell people if you're a religious person, if this is someone that you follow the Bible and all of that stuff, if you are someone that's you and you want to continue to do that, then by all means, I am not here to tell you, you better stop. That's you, okay? That is your choice. But what I am saying is this, is that the real you, I had someone reach out to me. They asked me an age-old question. They said, Dwayne, what happens when we die? I mean, why are you asking me? You know what I'm saying? They said, what happens when you die? And they say, because I've had individuals in my life close to me that have died. And I'm just wondering what happens. Because I believe this individual, they're like in the same path kind of where I am. I'm just questioning everything. And, I said, first of all, I can't really give you a straight answer on that, considering that I've never died. So I can't give you an answer on that. However, I said, one of the things I've been doing is, and I would encourage you to do it too, is, and I've said this before, on YouTube here, there's a lot of videos out here of people who've had near-death experiences. And very interesting. I'll just say that. It's very, very interesting because I'm listening to all of these different people from various walks of life, some religious, some are not, and they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying literally the same exact stuff. And what they are describing is something that I would say is way more wonderful than what the Bible has given us when it talks about heaven. Because you do know that what we describe as heaven is actually a Jewish invention. Even heaven and all the stuff they say that's going to be in heaven and all of that, that is Jewish in nature. All of that is Jewish. That is not, when you go into different cultures and you listen to these cultures and they talk about describe their afterlife, it is not that. It's always something a little bit different and all of that. But what we in the West, what we describe in the afterlife is something that's very Jewish in nature. But when you listen to these people who've had these near-death experiences, it is something far more different. And it's something really powerful. And one of the things they talk about is, as individuals, we are a lot more than what we see here. See, I can call myself black just to fit in so that I'm relatable or whatever. But what I'm learning is this, is that the real me is even greater than this. But this tells my function and my purpose on why I'm here. Why did I come to this earth in skin like this? What does this skin have that skin doesn't? That will begin to open your mind and you'll begin to start learning deeper things about who you really are. Think about it. And like I said, again, I'm trying to turn it off here, but think about it. Out here in the West, and I got my man out here, Todd Wilson, who's out here in Arizona too. There are, many of y'all seen road runners like on the cartoons, right? But they're real of course, they're road runners, the bird. They're road runners running around here all the time. And when you look at a road runner, for example, joints could get quite big. I didn't realize until I moved out here. But I mean, not like ostrich big, but they're a lot larger than I thought they would. But roadrunners, the way their bodies are designed, just like a lot of birds, all birds, they have feathers, they got the beak and they got the claws and all that stuff. And of course they can run fast. That's what they're known for. But if you were to turn a roadrunner in its back, they have a spot there. And that the purpose of that spot is so that they can, in that high heat environment, it's exposed enough to keep their bodies cool. So the way they're designed, their entire body is designed in such a way so that they are can fully function to their optimum in their place in the earth. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, you're not going to find a polar bear in the desert, okay? Because that's not their environment. Everything about a polar bear, from the thick coat to the claws and all of that stuff, it is for their purpose. And what I'm saying to you is, as black folks, our skin, our lips, our hair, our nose size, all of that, our muscular size and all of that it has a specific purpose to who we are. A specific purpose. But what this system has done is done something where it has blocked us from understanding that and getting to the understanding of that. I've been sitting back and I said, video after video after video come across my timeline, black folks killing one another, acting all crazy, just going after each other and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting back and I'm looking at this and I said, what if, because first of all, we know, black folks, we got this warrior thing about us. But what if we're not here, that warrior part of us is something that we are, and I believe that. But it wasn't supposed to be targeted towards each other, which I know that we know that. We are not supposed to be out here killing one another. But I do believe there is something we are supposed to be annihilating. I do believe that. There is something we are supposed to be annihilating, and it ain't us. Let me say this to you. Look at the human body. Look at the human body. The human body, you have, amongst other things, you have white blood cells. What's the main purpose of the white blood cell? It's to attack those bacteria and stuff that comes in. That's what it does. That's its function, is to attack and to destroy. That's what it does. It's always, other than that, it's like, oh, I'm just walking around, I'm fine. But something comes in to destroy, to bring destruction to the body. That thing flips up, and it's pretty much a done deal for whatever that bacteria is that tries to come in. That's what the white blood cells, that's what it does. When you look at mankind, I believe you have people who have different functionalities just like that. And it's very interesting that the thing in the body, in the human body, the one thing in the human body that is known for being the main and the most important deterrent to bacteria, to viruses, or whatever, is what? Is melanin. Melanin. You were designed, this melanin suit that you're wearing, it's telling you that this is what you're designed to do. You are to be a deterrent against other forces that bring their negativity in the rest of the human race. That's what you are here for. But we have a lot of figuring out we have to do first before we get to that point. I told you. I said, there's a lot I've learned out of this experience. There's a whole lot that I've learned. And what I'm telling you right now is that I want you to think bigger than what we call the black community. Because there are going to be a lot of people in your life that look like you. You're not going to be able to travel with them because they're too busy and staying black. I love my skin, but I am not going to allow this skin alone. I'm not going to detach it from who I really am. You understand what I'm saying? Now, there are people out there that do understand the connection between their skin and who they really are. They get it. But you see how they function and they operate. You have people groups out there, they are dedicated to being evil. When you look at some of these people groups out here that mess around with little children, doing all these child sacrifices, make no mistake about it, they are getting some power out of that, okay? They are getting something out of that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be invested in all that. That whole Epstein stuff, you think they were just doing that for kicks? No, they are getting real power out of that. Make no mistake about it. There's something that they are extracting from doing that kind of evil. And what I'm saying is this, is that if that is true, then the opposite also has to be true as well. And what is the opposite? What's the opposite? Learning nature, nurture, being part of nature, understanding nature, protecting our children, loving our people, prioritizing our people, loving folks and all of that. And understand, like I said again, engaging in nature and treating each other right and all of that, and prioritizing good character and all of that stuff. When you are doing the opposite of what them people are doing, they can't stand a chance. But until then, when you're blocked from that, all you will do is attack one another. You block two lions and you put them in an enclosed environment where they're not in the jungle and they're not in their space, where they're out there in the natural space. What they're going to do? They're going to start turning on each other. That's what you see happening today. Black folks are constantly turning on each other. Why? Because something has happened that has blocked us from us understanding who we really are. And what I am telling you is that the religions that they have given us, that's what it's done. That's what it's done. Now, am I encouraging you? Okay, well, that's why you got to get into African religions. No, I'm not doing that at all, because I hold them to the same standard. When we were on those slave ships, now one of them gods came and stopped that mess. Not one of them. So they, in my book, they're disqualified too. You understand? So no, I'm done with that. You'd be a fool to be hundreds and thousands of years. You still praying to the same thing, and there's nothing when your ancestors were on those ships. And then what we tell ourselves over and over again, we keep telling ourselves, well, it was to teach us a lesson because we were rebellious people, and it was to teach us a lesson. We are bad people. We bad, Dwayne. Bad, bad, bad. Meanwhile, we're doing everything we can to get things right. There are many of you can point to aunties and uncles and all of that. They've done everything they can in the church environment, being the best they can, to be giving, to be loving, to doing all that stuff. And they still going through the same stuff. We disconnected from something, y'all. There's something deeper inside of us that we have been disconnected from, y'all. There's something that we've been disconnected from. And my encouragement to you is this: where the culture is loud, I am calling you to start embracing silence, meaning, engage in things like silent meditation. I'm not saying you calling on demons or spirits and all that stuff. Nobody's saying any of that stuff, but practice engaging in silence, putting yourself in silence, those breathing exercises where you're just doing that and doing that, practice that. I went through a time, even last week, the stuff was going so crazy. I couldn't even do that because I was just so mad. I'm still mad, but I had to allow myself to be angry. You know what I'm saying? But I'm now getting back to that. I'm like, okay, all right, let me get back to this. And that's what I'm saying for you to do. So with all of this noise out here, at the end of the day, we want to talk about Black culture. What I'm saying to you is it's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot deeper, because if you continue to hang your hat on what we call Black culture, what we call right now black culture, it's always going to continue to change, because as long as you're dealing with people who don't want to be honest enough and ask these serious questions, it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. That's what's going to happen. The question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? When are you going to start tapping into who you really are? Okay. So I'll just say this and I'm done. Again, I don't care if you are listening to me, you're a Hebrew Israelite, you're a Christian, you're a Roman Catholic, you're a Muslim. I don't care about any of that. I don't. I don't. I literally don't. I'm not, and I'm not one to, like I said, again, I'm always going to tell you the truth. I'm going to say, okay, now this is what the facts say now. I'm going to tell you that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if you're like, well, you know, I don't know. I still don't know, Dwayne. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable going out there because I always knew the Bible and that's all I had. Then you hold on to that. Do you understand what I'm saying? You hold on to that. If that's you. You understand what I'm saying? But what have they done? What's that other thing they tell? Well, if you don't do it, you're gonna go straight to hell. Well, I did a whole video on hell and where that came from. We gotta look at the facts. But I would encourage you, just watch some of these near-death experience videos. They're quite fascinating. Now, some of these people, I'll be honest with you, they're probably lying. Some of these folks are, but not everybody. Quite fascinating. I believe that's what's waiting for us, what's out there or whatever, is something far greater than what any person can describe in a book. Think about it. What the Bible describes of as heaven are people who never been there. They've never been there, and they tell you about, oh yeah, child, the streets are paved with gold, and then I saw this and I saw that, and child, they ain't never been there. They never been there, and they telling you all about it. That's like me up here trying to describe some of you guys' houses, like y'all, they live in a palatial place, y'all. They got like 18 stories in their house. They got 5 swimming pools and all that stuff. I ain't never been in your house. Well, it's the same thing. Once you sit down and think about it, it's like, what? You got people describing, well, you know, when I went up, you know, and all that, and they never been there. So I would really encourage you to do that. Just, you know, it's just something to think about. It's just literally just something to think about, something to ponder. But I do believe that. I believe that. And I believe that not only that, it's something that we can tap into now. I do believe that. Because the real you is you're just wearing an earth suit. But the real you is beyond this. Okay? That's just something I want you to understand that. So anyway, I told y'all this was going to be a long one tonight. I told you. I said a lot to cover. So we covered quite a bit in this broadcast. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Dang, it's 8:55 now. It's almost 11 o'clock on the East Coast. If you're on the East Coast, you really hanging in with me. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, that's it, y'all. Thank you so much. Remember, you know, like I said again, Sombatry is still up. You know, right now, if you go there and you purchase something, it's tonight, and I would say part of tomorrow, it will be you order it, you'll get a invoice that will be emailed to you. You take care of that, and we already moving and getting stuff turning around very quickly. We're gonna get your stuff out, okay? But tomorrow, later on tomorrow, we'll be switched over to our new site. You won't even really notice it. It'll just happen, and it'll be back to, you could just, you know, do your card stuff all on the site. That's it. But I really appreciate your time, you guys, and don't take it lightly at all. I take it very seriously, and I'm very honored, you know, for each and every one of you for being here. And I do mean that, you know, and because you could, you know, you got things to do just like everybody else. And I really appreciate that. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and we will be talking again very soon. All right. Take care now. See you soon.